hopefully. Okay, so 4 and 5 should have been pretty easy, right? Because they even show you what the picture would look like. So if we sliced it vertically, we know that it's going to give me a triangle. And we know that this one is going to give me 5 is a hexagon, right? So it would give me this figure that kind of looks like this. So those first two are pretty easy. All right, but if we go to number 6, Darian and Raya each cut the prism shown to make cross sections. The cross section from Darian's cut is a triangle. Okay, so Darian gives me a triangle, and Raya's gives me a rectangle. So hopefully you can see that if I cut it at the bottom, or if I cut it vertically, I'm sorry, not vertically, horizontal, then I get the triangle. So Darian will be a horizontal cut, and Raya would be a vertical cut. Okay? All right, so as Xander mentioned or asked earlier, this is the formula for surface area, and volume is the base of the face times the height. All right, so we have a gift box, and it is a trapezoid. Okay, it takes 64 square centimeters of cardboard to make the flaps needed to glue the box together. How many square centimeters of cardboard are needed to make the actual box and the flaps? Okay, so once we find the box, you then got to go back and add the 84 centimeters for the flaps. All right, so a trapezoid, remember, is B1 plus B2 divided by 2 times the height. So my two bases are 12 and 24 divided by 2. And the height, you can't really see it on mine, but this was the height, which is 8. So that would be 36 divided by 2, which is 18, I believe. Yep. So just one trapezoid is 144. I have 2 of them. So 2 times 144 plus, and remember Reagan asked me what were the tens for. Well, we need these tens when we find the perimeter. So the perimeter is 24 plus 12 plus 10 plus 10, which is 56, and then the height is 20. Okay, so then 2 times 144 is 288.
That equals 6,880, right?
What does?
2 times 144 plus 56 times 20.
No, I think you're too high. So what did you get when you multiplied 56 times 20?
56 times 20, that was, hold up. Yeah, that was 1,120.
Okay. So then you're adding 288, not multiplying.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So it should give me 1,408.
Yep.
Then you got to go back and add the flaps, which is 84. So I should get 1,492.
Oh, okay, so I see what I did wrong now.
Okay, good. All right, am I good to go on, or do I need to pause for a second?
Go on.
All right. All right, so number 8, you're trying to figure out which or how much more is one area versus the other. All right, so we need to break it down into two figures, the rectangular and the triangular. So the rectangle really has a face of a square. So that means the perimeter of the base would be a 4 by 4, which is 16. So B would be 4 times 4, and we have 2 of those. So 2 times 16 plus the perimeter, so that would be 4, and we have 4 of those. So my perimeter is also 16, and my height is 6. So this would be 32, and then 16 times 6 is 96. So add them together, and we get 128 for the rectangle. So for the triangle...
But how do you differentiate between the height? Like, what's the height and what's the width?
So, because they told me what kind of prisms they were, right? So this is a square prism, so I knew that if I tipped my prism upside down, right, this would be on the bottom. And then this, because I flip it and put it this on the bottom, this had to be the height. And the same thing with the triangle. So since it's a triangle prism, they're telling me that is the base. So if we flip it, this would be on the bottom, and then 6 would be the height of the prism, but 3.5 is the height of the triangle. So that's just how I know. I have to look at what are they telling me what type of prisms they are.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so the triangle, so its base is a 4 times 3.5, but divided by 2, because that's a triangle. So we get 14. When I divide it by 2, I get 7. But when we put it back in the formula, I got 2 of them, so I'm back at 14 again, right? It tells me it's an equilateral triangle, so that's important because that means that this is 4, this is 4, this is 4. So my perimeter would be 4 times 3, which is 12. And then my height, once again, is 6. So then 12 times 6 is 72. So add them together. 72 and 14 gives me 86. So it says how much more? So 128 minus 86 leaves me with 42. Okay? All right, a school garden club is making a garden bed shown. It needs to hold 24 cubic feet of soil when full. Draw a rectangle on the grid that represents a possible length and width of the bed. So it's holding, so it's filling things, it's putting things inside, so that is volume. So remember, volume is really BH, right? But we don't know what B is. Well, we know it's length and width. So basically, we would take the 24 and we would have 3/4 B. Well, to get rid of the 3/4, multiply by the reciprocal. So B would be 24 times 4 divided by 3 would be 32. So that means together the length and width, when I multiply them, have to be 32. So it could be an 8 by 4. It could be a 1 times 32, but even though you can see that that's definitely not that. It could be a 2 by 16. And I don't think we can do any more of those. 4, 5, 6, no. So those would be your only options to put in there. So when I did mine, I used the 4 by 8. Is what I did for mine. Or it could be an 8 by 4, 4 by 8, same thing. Okay? Alright, Wes is making 20 candles in the shape of a hexagonal prism with the dimensions shown. The base of each candle is a regular hexagon with the area of 10.4 square inches. The wax Wes is using to make the candles costs 10 cents per cubic inch. To the nearest cent, how much will the wax cost for 20 candles? All right, so that's volume because we have a mold and we're trying to fill it, right? So volume equals BH. We know B is 10.4. Times H, which is 4. So 10.4 times 4 is 41.6. We have 20 of those. So times 20, which is 832 inches cubed that we need, right? And it's 10 cents per inch, per cubic inch. So if I multiply times 10 cents, I should get $83.20. All right, the surface area of a cube. So remember, surface area of a cube is 6s squared. So 150 equals 6s squared. So 150 divided by 6 is 25. So that means S is 5. We want to know volume. So volume is S to the third. So 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125. All right, then the last one. So Amber is making a scratching post for her cat. The scratching post is composed of 2 rectangular prisms with the dimensions shown. Amber plans to cover all exposed faces except for the bottom face with carpet. How many square inches of carpet does she need? All right. So this is a square. So we're going to do the square one first. And we're going to do what we know. So we know the area of the base would be a 3 by 3, which is 9. And we know the perimeter would be 3 times 4, which is 12, because we have four sides. Okay, then the rectangle we know is a 14 by 16. Right, so 14 by 16, which I think is 244. Yep. 224, sorry. And then my perimeter would be 14 times 2 plus 16 times 2. So that would be a 28 and a 32. So my perimeter would be 60. All right, so surface area. So we're going to substitute all that information into our formula. So the square would be 2. Okay, usually it's 2 times 9, right? But if you notice, the bottom is like included into that rectangle. So we're not going to use 2. We're just going to use 9 plus the perimeter, which is 12, times the height, which is 23.5. So this gives me 282 plus 9, so that is 291. And then the rectangle, once again, we're not going to do the bottom, right? Because it told me that up here. So that means we're going to have 224 plus 60 times 1.25. So 1.25 times 60 is 75 plus 224. So that gives me 299. So 291 plus 299 is 590. Okay? So the other problem is even though they don't show it to you, this peg goes all the way through. So it's making another hole in the bottom of this. So we have to subtract another 9 because that's what's being separated from this piece that's here, right? So that would give me 581 inches squared of material that we need. Okay? All right. So we have about a minute. Are there any questions?
Back on 10, when we said 10.4 times 4, why did you do it by 4?
Because that's the height.
But I mean, like, why do you do it by the height?
Because that's the formula. The area of the base times the height.
Oh, wait, I thought that was volume.
Yeah,
Oops.
volume. The reason why we do it times the heights is because that's the layer, right? So if I find the area, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of that area. All right, anything else? All right, then you guys are good to go. I will see you tomorrow.